for men.
Watching Primetime, I'm Tamanna Inamdar.
My name is Ayush Alavadi. Let's have a look at today's top stories. Indian markets plummeted today to post their third weekly loss after the TDP exited the ruling NDA.
Lok Sabha fails to take up the no-confidence motion moved by TDP and YSR Congress on Modi government because of the House not being in order.
The Maharashtra government approves the ban on plastic from the Maharashtra New Year, Gudi Padwa. Bans covers production, use, storage, sale, distribution, import and transportation of specific plastic materials.
Walmart is said to be in discussions to spend about $7 billion to become the largest investor in Flipkart. The move will allow Walmart to compete with Amazon in India.
New Metal offers to buy out Revant Ruiya's stake to become a suitable bidder for SR Steel as the VTB-led consortium looks to eliminate the Ruiya connection. All right, as the week draws to a close, here's an interesting story. The Indian markets extended losses to end over 1% weaker, making it the third straight week of losses. Neeraj Shah takes us through the week's market action in this report.
Well, it was the Friday's session pullback which led to the index posting losses. So about 1/3% for the Nifty and the Sensex, but predominantly because of what happened in Friday's session, which was a very, very weak session of trade. However, Nifty Bank did reasonably okay, and I'll take you to the gainers list to tell you, show you how the banks, mid cap, small cap, PSU, private, all came back, and the broader end too didn't have a particularly terrible week. Now let's take a look at what some of the gainers and the losers did. As I said, banks all the way. So Axis, yes, a couple of others, and the mid-sized PSU banks, all of them came up very, very well in the session. It was also accompanied by gains to stocks like Bharti Airtel, Bajaj Finance, and a sea of others. But there were a few points of bother. Firstly, TCS and Tata Sons selling that stake really led to the sentiment worsening in the stock. It was not just the price at which it was done, frankly, but I think it stayed beyond that, which is why TCS corrected about 7% amongst the top losers. Coal India had a big gash. Indian Oil, BPCL, HPCL, that entire OMC bucket didn't have a great week either. So these were amongst the top losers. But banks, as I said, did very well. If you saw the private banks earlier, the PSU banks, Canara Bank, IDBI Bank, a clutch of other mid-sized names, Central Bank, Indian Bank, that whole bucket did extremely well in this week gone by. NBCC, the chairman and managing director, got a clean chit in a probe, and that's why that stock ended up about 10% for the week. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala checks into JP Associates. The disclosures came out Thursday, but maybe the buying happened during the week. People got a whiff of it, or otherwise the stock did about 50%. That's a really, really smart move. And PSUs by and large had a fairly decent outing. A lot of PSU IPOs this week, maybe that, maybe something else, but MMTC, ITDC, and a clutch of other names had a really, really good week. What didn't do well, and a sore spot, there were many losers, but amongst the stabler names, Phoenix Mills was a good name, but corrected about 13% in this week. So it was a forgetful week for Phoenix Mills individually.
All right, let's talk a bit more about markets and how the outlook looks for the coming week. Deepan Mehta, member of the BSE, is joining us on the phone line for more. A very good evening to you, Deepan. Are you worried with the closing we've seen today and the entire trend of weakness and nervousness in the markets that we've seen through the last 6-7 sessions?
Well, not worried, but yes, certainly a bit surprised that the market correction has only deepened further. And one would have thought that some sort of stability would have come, considering that there has been a kind of a decent correction. But unfortunately, I think the political events have overtaken the market at this point of time. And although we were anticipating hiccups and political uncertainty, but the entire process has happened just a little bit earlier, and it appears to be far more ugly than what the street was expecting. I mean, to have an ally leave the NDA and then call for a no-confidence motion makes the entire, equation up to the elections and even for the elections and post-elections quite tenuous and full of, various options and altogether confusion. So that's what the market was discounting. And as you know, markets hate political uncertainty. And we have a whiff of this political uncertainty. And that is just about getting discounted just now.
Right, Mr. Mehta, political uncertainty being one thing, but also just to get your take on, the shifting positions from SGX to India, is that also contributing to this fall? And also, considering the Fed meeting, would you say that's priced in already?
I think it's more to do with domestic factors rather than international factors or even SGX or whatever decision MSCI may be taking. But there's no denying that there was relentless selling from FIIs because the large cap stocks, index stocks were certainly, kind of targeted. But, I mean, on the whole, the sentiment is down on account of what we saw happen over the last 48 hours on the political front. And as also the fact that there are no buying triggers per se. We had the budget being passed and there was that minor sliver of hope that maybe long-term capital gains would not be implemented or there would be some more relaxation there. That did not come through. And as such, there is not much of anything as a bull to look forward to over the next, say, 3 or 4 weeks, at least until the earnings season starts. So I think we'll have to live with this kind of volatility and this kind of, slightly gloomy scenario, at least the next 3-4 weeks or so. Also, globally, I think, the Dow Jones and all, again, after having a spectacular rally, it sold off yesterday. And that also played on the sentiment of investors and traders over here, because that usually acts as a bit of a support and keeps the confidence going in the Indian market to know that the risk on trade is still on. But, even that is getting questioned at this point of time. So it's a plethora of factors, but the top of the list is political uncertainty.
Deepan, looking forward, looking now to the next week, that no confidence motion is still pending in the Lok Sabha. The motion will be moved again. There are definitely clearly more than 50 MPs willing to back it. Do you see that story playing out as something that the market will be looking at very keenly?
Yes, because, there'll be voices made by all sorts of political parties and it will be divisive, highly divisive voices. And it's just that, the news flow changes from the economics and businesses to the political front. And the headlines will shift away from progressive, positive news flow to negative news flow as far as political uncertainty is concerned. And that certainly will dampen sentiment. See, this entire rally, the expansion of price earning multiples and the way retail flows have come into equity, its basic premise is, for one, that we have strong leadership for the next 5 years or so. Secondly, that there's a great deal of visibility as far as earnings and economic policies are concerned. And lastly, that there is no other asset class which can match the returns of the equities. So while the third argument still remains intact, there are certainly a lot of doubts on the earlier two arguments that we would have the same government for the next, same government, same PM, same team for the next 5 years, 2019 and beyond. And as also the fact that, there could be challenges on other fronts if there's a change of government.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Deepan Mehta, highlighting how all the political action is something that the markets are focused on, that has spooked the markets over the last few trading sessions, especially today. And the story that has spooked the markets is that the no confidence motion moved in the Lok Sabha. The Lok Sabha, though, did not take up notices for no confidence motions against the NDA government. The reason is that Speaker Sumitra Mahajan said the House was not in order and adjourned the proceedings for the day. This is the first time that no confidence motion notices have been moved against the Modi government in the last 4 years. The notices were moved by YSR Congress and the TDP. Both parties from Andhra Pradesh, both are political rivals and have been demanding special status for Andhra Pradesh, an issue over which the TDP quit its alliance officially this morning.
Today morning, an emergency, the Politburo was conducted through conference calls, through which our president have taken the decision based on the majority members' opinion to withdraw from NDA, so that at least we will not have responsibility.
जब नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन कोई उठाया है, सिर्फ ये रिक्वायरमेंट है कि 50 लोग को अपनी सीट पे खड़े होने चाहिए। 50 लोग से ज्यादा खड़े थे, लेकिन स्पीकर जी ने कहा कि नहीं, हम तैयार नहीं है ये मानने के लिए, क्योंकि हाउस इज नॉट इन ऑर्डर। अगर हाउस ऑर्डर में था फाइनेंस बिल पास करने के लिए, तो उतना ऑर्डर आज भी था।
हमारे सभी समर्थन करने वाले पार्टियों का समर्थन है, और इस समर्थन के साथ आज हम जनता की सेवा कर रहे हैं, और हाउस में भी समर्थन है, कॉन्फिडेंस है, और देश में भी कॉन्फिडेंस है।
Political reactions to the TDP quitting the NDA have been coming in through the day. Notably, the TMC welcomed the TDP's decision, with West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee saying that the current situation demands opposition unity.
Well, the BJP chose to see the brighter side of things, with party spokesperson GVL Narasimha Rao calling it an opportunity to become a bigger player in Andhra Pradesh state politics.
That these are nothing but utter propaganda. The reality is that the state government and the TDP are feeling the pinch of the public opinion going against them, and BJP will use this as an opportunity to grow as a political party and to emerge as a dominant political force in Andhra Pradesh. For us, Andhra Pradesh will prove to be the next Tripura, a party where we are a small party today, but 12 months from now, you will see the BJP emerging as the dominant political player in Andhra Pradesh.
बहुत अच्छी बात है कि टीडीपी ने हिम्मत दिखाई और वहां से वो लोग हट गए। अब ये सरकार को समझ में आएगी कि इनकी किसी भी आलाई को इन्होंने बख्शा नहीं है। सबके साथ ऐसा धोखाबाजी करते जाती है ये सरकार, और इसकी परिणाम 2019 में इनको समझ में आएगी।
All right, to talk more about the entire proceedings in Parliament, remember that no confidence motion still exists. What's going to happen next? Discussing all of that with us this evening is Meghnad S., political analyst who joins us on Skype. Meghnad, welcome to the show. Let's go through what happened this morning in the Lok Sabha. The Speaker said that the no confidence motions could not be taken up because there was no order in the House, despite 50 plus MPs standing up. You've been tracking that story very closely. Can you describe to us what happened?
So as usual, you know, the Lok Sabha started at 11, and it immediately got adjourned, pretty much immediately, because you know, of course, there was like there was ruckus happening there. At 12, when they came back, the obituary references happened after the question hour, where, you know, the three passed away members, their names were read out. Stephen Hawking's name was read out. Then New Year wishes were given by the Speaker, and immediately after that, a few MPs rushed in with like placards, and you could actually see the placards in the screen also. And so the Lok Sabha TV did not really show that the MPs were standing up for the no confidence motion, but the Speaker did say that, you know, there is a lot of ruckus going on, so this is not the right time to consider the motion. So she just adjourned the House. That is essentially what happened. Later, we found out that more than 50 MPs had stood up when the no confidence motion, for the no confidence motion. But, you know, it was all chaos, so it was really hard to tell what was really going on unless you're inside.
I just want to understand a couple of things. First of all, a lot of people are pointing out the fact that in the middle of a lot of chaos, the finance bill was passed just earlier this week. So how did that happen? That is one question. And the second one is that the opposition was clearly very keen to see this no confidence motion going through the process. So who were these MPs who rushed to the well, giving the BJP the much needed opportunity to say there's too much, you know, ruckus, or the Speaker, you know, to actually dismiss the House?
So to your first question, so on Wednesday, it was a very bizarre scene actually, where the finance bill was pushed through. Not just the finance bill, all the demand for grants were pushed through, and everything was passed in like 36 minutes flat. While there was chaos happening, the speaker was constantly reading the demand for grants. Then she moved on to the finance bill. Even the finance minister had put in amendments, 21 of them, new amendments. They were also cleared while the bill was being passed. So the whole bill was passed with that controversial amendment, which has a retrospective amendment of allowing foreign donations to political parties from 1976 onwards. So all of that happened. Then next day, which is Thursday, which is yesterday, two more bills were passed in a similar fashion, like the gratuity bill and the specific amendment act. They were also passed. Two more bills were passed in a similar situation where MPs were constantly screaming and shouting while the speaker just read out clause after clause and approved it by voice vote. Yesterday, one more thing happened was when a few MPs got up and asked for a division vote, their mics seemed to have been cut off, or the speaker just plain ignored them, and no division happened. So all of them were passed by voice vote. And to your second question, can you repeat the second question, please?
No, the second question is that if the opposition is so keen to see this no confidence motion going through, why are they giving an opportunity for the speaker to say there's too much chaos, no order in the house, why dismiss the house? You would expect them to wait quietly and 50 plus MPs stand up and push that through. I didn't quite understand the semantics of that one.
Actually, absolutely, and actually that is why I am not entirely sure what happened there, because from what I could see, as in if you watch Lok Sabha TV, they rarely show like the top view, right? And there were a few MPs which seemed to be from the TDP who went in with like placards for they are asking for a special package for Andhra Pradesh, who went in, but then it doesn't make sense because they were the ones moving the motion themselves. The Congress MPs seem to be sitting there basically just waiting for things to go down. And of course, I saw there were a few MPs from, as far as I could see, Tamil Nadu, who were also in the well, who are, I think, outraging about the Kaveri issue. So it was a very strange scene. And even I have this question where, if TDP moved the no confidence motion, were their MPs going and screaming in the well? Because it wouldn't make any sense, right? Where they moved the motion and they will be disrupting the house so that, it won't happen. And Congress seems to say that, they were not really in the well. They were actually standing up in support of the motion. So it's a very confusing scenario about what really happened there.
All right, let's take a look. One last forward-looking question to you, Meghna, because this is now all this action has moved to Monday. What happens as per procedure? What is likely to happen? Can you just share your thoughts on that?
All right. So, the motion has been moved by the TDP, which has 16 MPs. YSRCP is supporting them, which have 9 MPs. Overall, I think they've managed to gather more than 50 MPs, which means that on the floor of the House, the no confidence motion will be considered. If 50 MPs stand up, as Shashi Tharoor pointed out, I think you just played that clip. So that motion will be taken up. And then the government has to also give some responses in defense of, why they should stay in government, etc. On the BJP's side, actually, they now have 274 seats, 2 more than majority. But if you count the allies, which include Shiv Sena and AIDMK, they go up till 315 MPs. So the no confidence motion will be defeated, I feel, right at the get-go. But what would be interesting is the debate that would happen when that motion will be considered, right? There is something interesting happening there as well, where the Trinamool Congress is still sitting on the fence, where they haven't really given a indication of whether they will support or go against the motion. Shiv Sena is also sitting on the fence, so that would be interesting to see.
All right, thank you so much for that. Meghna there explaining how that story is going to pan out. That's a story, of course, markets are also watching very keenly, as are all of us.
All right, moving on, the Maharashtra government has decided to ban the use of plastic in the state from March 18th. Maharashtra, remember, is one of the top polluters of plastic in the country. Purva Chitnis joins us now. Purva, tell us more about this ban. What's banned, what's not? And of course, if post-March 18th, if any of us were found to be using plastic, how much would we be penalized and how would we be penalized?
Yes, that's right, Ayush. So starting March 18, all the single-use disposable plastic items would be banned across the Maharashtra, across the state. So that includes your plastic bags, spoons, forks, then anything like plastic pouches or the cutlery. However, there are certain items which are exempted from this ban, which includes the medicine, the plastic used in medicines, then forest and horticulture products. So such kind of items are right for now have been exempted from the ban. And also there is a second part to this ban, like the plastic which is kind of right now which is recyclable. So there is a deposit scheme. So if you go and buy milk pouches and milk products, so like you'll have to pay an extra 50 paisa, and if you once you deposit that bag, the empty plastic bag again, then you will get that 50 paisa back. So there's this deposit scheme which the government is trying to implement. So there's another thing which you spoke about, I think, is the punishable offense. Then yes, there is a penalty of up to 25,000 rupees and also a jail term of 3 months. So, but the government the government is also going to implement a committee which will look over this ban, and in the next 3 months they are going to review how the ban went ahead and what more needs to be done. So as of now, that's the update that I have.
Thank you so much for that, Purva. Well, how is the big question now, isn't it? How will this plastic ban actually be implemented? Are there enough alternatives available? We're going to speak about all of that on Primetime Debate a little while later on the show. I'll be joined by Ravi Jashnani, President of the Maharashtra Plastic Manufacturing Association, and Pramod Dabrase, environmentalist, to talk about this story.
In other news, Walmart is said to be in discussions to spend about $7 billion to become the largest investor in Flipkart to compete with rival Amazon. Now, the question is, how much is Flipkart valued at? That's the million-dollar question. Some of Flipkart's mutual fund investors have marked up Flipkart's valuation. Nishant Sharma tells us whether this will have any bearing on the deal.
A few of Flipkart's mutual fund investors, including Morgan Stanley, Valak, Vanguard, and Optimum Fund, have all upped Flipkart's valuation as per their December 2017 filings and have valued Flipkart somewhere in the range of $11 to $19 billion. Now, these markups come nearly after 2 years of aggressive markdown Flipkart suffered on the hands of almost most of its mutual fund investors. Way back in 2016, Morgan Stanley even slashed Flipkart's valuation to $5 billion. Now, these markups have also come at an opportune time for Flipkart, who is in the middle of a deal with Walmart, a US biggest retail giant, who is also eyeing for a larger stake in the company as per the Bloomberg report, which means that Walmart is eyeing for anything more than 20% stake in the company, given that SoftBank, who is the largest shareholder in Flipkart, owns about 20.7% stake in the company, followed by Tiger Global, which holds about 20.6% stake in the company. But how much bearing will this markups by these some of its mutual fund investors will have on the actual deal? So I spoke with a lot of investment bankers. They told me that although in an ideal scenario, a markup by a mutual fund investor will give a better negotiating power to the founders, but given that this deal is more of a strategic in nature, might not make much of an impact while deciding or coming up with the final valuation of Flipkart.
Meanwhile, online grocer Grofers raised 400 crore rupees in a fresh funding round led by Japan's SoftBank Group. The fresh investment by SoftBank in Grofers comes less than 2 months after its rival Big Basket raised $300 million in a round led by Alibaba Group Holding. The two companies also face stiff competition as Flipkart and Amazon are expanding their grocery businesses aggressively. Speaking to Nishant Sharma, co-founder and CEO of Grofers, Albinder Dhinsa said groceries is becoming a booming sector and Grofers would continue investing in this space.
For us, like, the business has done really well over the last year and a half especially. So we're looking to raise capital so that we can continue accelerating the pace of growth that we have, work more towards profitability. One of our largest cities, Delhi, is already breaking even. So we want to sort of continue the momentum, keep investing in the market. And I think grocery has a very, very bright future, and we obviously want to be part of that.
Now, in order to become a suitable bidder for SR Steel, New Metal is now offering to buy out Revant Ruiya's stake in the company. Remember, New Metal's bid has been under a cloud because a trust owned by Revant Ruiya has a stake in it. The VTB-led consortium now wants to eliminate that connection. Vishwanath Nair tells us if such a decision will actually help solve the problem.
So what we have gathered from our sources is we don't know at this point in time whether this is going to solve the problem or not. But what has happened essentially is VTB Bank and some of the other shareholders in New Metal, they've all written to the lenders offering them this opportunity that they are willing to buy out Revant Ruiya's stake so that that connection with the Ruiya family is taken care of, and then that the Section 29A, which prohibits promoters from buying their own company or or NPA promoters buying companies, that sort of goes away. This is at this point in time an option available with the lenders. What the lenders are waiting for, however, is an eligibility report from the resolution professional in the case. The resolution professional is in the middle of a due diligence process wherein he is trying to figure out the eligibility of ArcelorMittal as well as New Metal and try to see whether both of them are affected by the 29A section of the IBC. Once he submits that report, it is expected to be submitted in the next few days. So once that report is submitted, then the lenders can take an informed decision whether Revant Ruiya needs to go from New Metal or not. But from what our sources have told us, at this point in time, the lenders are only looking at what are the options available with them.
Now, a committee of Banani Cement creditors approved the resolution plan from a consortium led by Dalmia Bharat. The consortium's bid is about 63.5 billion rupees and it has offered close to a 20% stake in Banani Cement to the banks.
The resolution professional overseeing the sale process will now submit the plan to the National Company Law Tribunal for final approval. The process could be delayed as Ultratech has approached the NCLT with complaints on how the Banani sale process was run. A hearing will be held on March 19th to consider Ultratech's case. The Delhi High Court today refused to ground the entire fleet of Indigo's A320neo aircrafts, which allegedly have defective engines. The petitioners sought to keep the entire fleet grounded till the manufacturers certified that engines are defect-free, and the DGCA is satisfied with this certification.
Now, Finance Minister has directed banks to come up with a blueprint on operational and technological risks within 15 days. This decision comes after a group of executive directors and CTOs put forth their suggestions. Banks will also have to devise action plans to further strengthen the controls in the area of trade finance, SWIFT, credit risk, operational risk, besides cyber and information technology risk. They will seek approval from the board and implement the plans in 3 to 6 months.
All right, the 12,000 crore rupee fraud at Punjab National Bank has unleashed a blame game between the government and the Reserve Bank of India. Last month, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley spared no punches when he observed that unfortunately in the Indian system, we politicians are accountable, the regulators are not. That was his quote. On Wednesday, RBI Governor Urjit Patel blamed lack of regulatory powers over state-owned banks for the lapses. What it essentially highlights is the wanting of proper supervision. Does the RBI need more powers? We put this question to Shankar Iyer, political economy analyst, and here's his response.
Well, not all of the regulatory issues and not all of the scams are a result of the governor's argument that the Reserve Bank of India does not have powers to act on public sector banks. The truth is that authority for institutions comes from the powers that they exercise. Now, the Reserve Bank of India, after the PNB Nirav Modi scam, said that they had alerted banks thrice since August 2016. About the misuse of, say, the SWIFT feature. What did they do after that? Did they order a special audit? Did they inform the owners of the bank? Did they inform the auditors of the bank? what were the steps that were taken? You know, sacking of directors or changing of board is the ultimate weapon. But the Banking Regulation Act has several other provisions. For instance, issuing directives. Now, did anybody stop the Reserve Bank of India from issuing the prompt corrective action steps? Did anybody stop them from similar directives that they could have issued to banks? Have they acted on the banks that have not adopted SWIFT, not connected SWIFT to core banking? These are all open questions about accountability, and which is why I argue that the real fugitive in the Indian scam landscape is accountability.
Right. Shankar, I take your point. You're basically arguing, saying that the Reserve Bank of India go ahead and exercise the powers it already has instead for asking for more. But let me come back to what the governor points out. And the debate really is about ownership and regulation. And he points out to this whole dual ownership or dual regulation that becomes a point of debate. Is this... I mean, again, the underlying tone in all of this is that different sets of rules applies for private sector banks and for government-owned banks. Is the governor, in a sense, hinting that privatization is the way out?
Well, the reason why I said that Urjit Patel is half right is because the issue that he has flagged, that there is a dual supervision system which causes fissures in regulation, and therefore banks escape between the two supervisory regimes. That is true. And this is not the first time this has been flagged. This has been flagged in the PJ Nayak committee report, which was accepted by the government in May 2014. Now, between May 2014 and now, we've had two governors. What did they do about the recommendations of the PJ Nayak committee report? Zero. So to argue that there is a regulatory issue in the ownership of banks is right, but that is not the complete story. And I don't think the governor is arguing for privatization, because if you see his statement, he's talking about minimal change in regulatory environment to bring about a neutral, or rather a level playing field between private sector banks and public sector banks.
Well, let's quickly go through some of the other political stories of the day. Former AAP leader Bhagwant Mann today resigned from the post of the party's Punjab chief. This comes a day after party president Arvind Kejriwal apologized to the Shiromani Akali Dal leader Bikram Singh Majithia for accusing him of being involved in the drug trade after his allegations were proved unfounded. The Delhi chief minister's apology has drawn strong criticism from his party leaders and MLAs in Punjab.
सब यहाँ महसूस पंजाब में ये कर रहे हैं कि अरविंद केजरीवाल कम से कम अपनी लीडरशिप से, अपने एमएलए से, अपने कार्यकर्ताओं से, क्योंकि हज़ारों की तादाद में पंजाब में आम आदमी पार्टी के वॉलंटियर्स ने सारे पंजाब में फ्लेक्स बोर्ड्स लगवाए थे जब अरविंद केजरीवाल के ऊपर डेफेमेशन सूट किया था विक्रम मजीठिया ने। सब ने अपनी फ़ोटो लगा करके टेलीफोन नंबर दिया था कि हम बोलते हैं कि विक्रम मजीठिया ड्रग का सरगना है। और दुख की बात यह है कि एक तरफ अरविंद केजरीवाल ग्राउंड रियलिटी को समझ नहीं पा रहे, वो अपना अपॉलॉजी दे रहे हैं, और दूसरी तरफ एसटीएफ हाई कोर्ट में एफिडेविट फाइल कर रही है कि विक्रम मजीठिया के खिलाफ पुख्ता सबूत हैं और कार्रवाई बनती है।
एक मुख्यमंत्री ने, आम आदमी पार्टी के हेड ने, कन्वीनर ने कहा कि मैं एक झूठा मुख्यमंत्री हूं, मैं एक झूठा कन्वीनर हूं, और साइन किए कि मैंने झूठ बोला। अब ये अपने आप को डिस्टेंस करना चाहते हैं, आम आदमी पार्टी के मुखिया से अपने आप को अलग दिखाना चाहते हैं। ये कारण है, भगवंत मान को जवाब पूछ रहे हैं कि जो तुम करोड़ों रुपए हमसे ठग कर लेके गए थे और ये कहकर गए थे कि ये लोग ड्रग्स में इन्वॉल्व हैं, हम इनको बंद करेंगे, तो इतना बड़ा तुम हमसे झूठ बोल रहे थे।
केजरीवाल साहब ने जो बुजदिली दिखाई है, पंजाबी लोग उससे सहमत नहीं। इट इज अ लेट डाउन ऑफ द फेथ ऑफ द पंजाबी पीपल। पंजाब के लोग इन्हें विकल्प मानते थे, और आज पंजाब को यह लग रहा है कि इससे बड़ा विश्वासघात निजी स्वार्थ के लिए केजरीवाल साहब पंजाब के साथ नहीं कर सकते थे।
It's been an action-packed week on Primetime and Primetime Debate, but Tamanna, it started off on Monday with the farmer protest, right?
Yes.
And this week, well, in terms of news, is an interesting week because it spills into the weekend as well. Plastic ban now.
Well, that's the big story, really. Plastic ban, very welcome. Remember the first time when the Maharashtra government had thought about it was after the floods in 2005. Yes. But there were limitations, 50 microns and under, etc. Nothing happened. Let's hope something happens this time round. It will depend on implementation. How is it going to happen? That's what we're discussing on Primetime Debate. We have the president of the Maharashtra Plastic Manufacturing Association as well as environmentalist Pramod Dabrase. We'll speak to them right after this very, very tiny break. We're coming right back with Primetime Debate. Don't go away.
Life